So often when I go to talks or corporate presentations, as soon as I say I'm a dietitian, people don't like me that much because they often think I'm going to talk about weight management or weight loss. But that's not actually the case. I actually don't like weight loss and weight management type of conversations because I think they just minimize life. We want to enjoy and eat and be happy. So most of my... I'm going to quickly run through this presentation because I think it's important to somehow unlearn a lot of things. And as a nutrition expert, I see a lot of, or hear a lot of things that are not really scientifically true that are being shared. And all of a sudden, everyone is a nutrition expert, and it just hurts me a little bit. So I think the first place to start is, you know, how food is actually categorized. We call it nutrition profile. So just like all the human beings have got fingerprints and that just a whole genetic makeup of who Mbali is and who Sisanda is, also food is like that. So often people will see that and they will say that's protein, but that is not protein, that is an egg. It's just a mere egg. It's not protein. Why I'm saying that's not protein is because when you start minimizing an egg to protein, you are now ignoring a whole host of nutrients that are there. Like, for example, fat. There's good fat in an egg as unsaturated fat and some saturated fat, but also there is vitamins and minerals. Did you know that eggs is one of the best sources of choline, and choline is one of the important nutrients for brain function and cognitive function? So as soon as you say that's a protein, you're missing all of that. That is not a carb or sugar, that's an apple, right? And that, again, that is important because as an apple, it has another nutrition profile. It has dietary fiber, it has vitamins, it has minerals, it has antioxidants like your quercetin, which is a fantastic antioxidant for brain function and just overall health. Okay, and that right there is an avocado pear, pear, or whatever you want to call it. We reduce that again to just being fat, but it's avocado and it's one of the great sources of fiber in our diet. And then it gets even interesting. When we see a donut, we think, oh no, that's sugar. I don't want to touch it. That's bad for me. But again, it's just not sugar. It has other nutrients. When you see a chocolate, you will automatically say we associate it with comfort, or, you know, women will associate it with maybe a certain type of time of the month, and people will say it's junk. People will say to make you be overactive, but that's just a chocolate. It could be a dark chocolate, which is high in cocoa or cacao, whatever you want to call it, and that is a source of antioxidants as well. And again, those are just fruits, it's not sugar. Why is that important for us to not call food based on the nutrient? It's because as soon as we start calling food and saying it's a protein or it's a carbohydrate or it's what, we again firstly miss on the bigger picture, but this puts us in deprivation. As soon as you say a donut is sugar, then when you walk into a donut shop, automatically your deprivation and your feelings of restraint and your feelings of guilt kick in, because all now you see is sugar. All right. So there are pillars of health. And why is it important for us to focus on these pillars of health? Because they help us build physical resilience. So for example, when we look into mental health, as I'm going to talk about mental health first, you'll realize that food plays a crucial role into our moods, into our emotions. We spoke a lot about the psychological part of it. And to support that, we need to eat well. So when we are eating, there's a huge connection in how, for example, for hormones like serotonin, you know, cortisol that was spoken of earlier, all of those hormones are produced or they are released based on how our bodies are absorbing certain food items. For example, vitamin D. So when you're sitting in the sun and your skin is producing vitamin D, serotonin levels increase, and serotonin is a happy hormone. So somehow when you come back inside, you feel like, okay, I can do this. That's why we say when you wake up in the morning, It just helps to open the windows and let the sunlight in. Not that you'll have, obviously, the sun directly in contact with your skin, but that just somehow puts you in a good mood and you want to get up and go. But if you've got blackout curtains, well, it's not going to help you, because now your brain is not going to have that awakening. So for us to build resilience, tenacity, productivity, and eventually be successful, brain nourishment is very important. So what foods we feed our brain. And you'll see that I've got a picture that shows a variety of foods there. And that's a start, that every food item that we eat has a space in how it's going to affect our mental health. So vegetables and fruits, eating your kala, eating whole grains, in sense of foods that are, foods that are high in the nourishment or the nutrition. And then also there are good oils, like, plant oils, like unsaturated fats. We call them unsaturated fats because they are plant oils. So it would be your avocados, your nuts, your seeds, as well. Adding those into your diet is very important for brain function and brain health. Also your, thank you so much. Also your oily fish, your fish oil, which is omega-3 fatty acids again. All right. The other important pillar of our health is gut health. And it's very, very important for me to mention that there is a huge connection between our gut and our brain. And it's actually connected by a nerve. It's called the vagus nerve. It's one of the biggest nerves that we have. So our brain tells our stomach or our gut, and our gut is from the mouth all the way down to the anus, your intestines, large intestines, small intestines, and all that. That's the whole gut area. So when we are eating, that nerve tells the gut to say, she's now full, and then the message is signaled to tell you, oh, stop eating now, you're full. But there is a 20-minute delay in the vagus nerve, and meaning that sometimes we eat and finish, and then later the vagus nerve is like, oh, she's full now. But at that time, a person has went for seconds. So it's very important. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, that nerve is not delayed in a sense of a person will say, oh, now let's get this vagus nerve working quicker. It's just that we have put ourselves in a culture of quick eating. We're chop, 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 5 minutes, a plate is demolished, done. But if we slow down when we're eating, we call it mindfulness and intuitive eating. If we slow down and we sort of like, eat, put the cutlery down, chew, and then eat. I know it's boring, but it makes a huge difference into how much food we end up eating. Then we allow that 15 to 20 minutes activity to happen in a sense of your brain is now telling you. And I grew up in Makaya, in the village. We are told that you need to finish that plate. Whether you're full or not, that plate has to be finished. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So when we do that, that somehow is embroidered in our mind. Once the food is dished up, I need to just eat it and finish. But as we grow, we're realizing that that takes away the senses, because food, we need to apply all the senses, from smell to the see visually, the textures of the food, and the surrounding also affects how we're going to absorb this food. So when we just we're not appreciating the food. And it's actually disrespect to the cooker, whoever cooked the food, because you just say, no, you need to say, and then textures and feel it and all that. So why is that all of that's important? It's because our immunity, our emotions, our hormones, our skin health, our weight management, our strength, our energy levels, all of those things are linked to how our gut responds to what we eat, the nutrition. So, like for example, in the gut, there is what we call a forest of bacteria. It's called a microflora. So that forest, it has got good bacteria, it has bad bacteria, it has fungi, it has viruses. Newsflash, we all have viruses living in us. Anyway, so all of those viruses and fungi need to be in good ratio, in proportion, in right proportions. And when our gut health is poor, they are thrown off, meaning that now fungi might be more than the good bacteria, or the bad bacteria might be more than the good bacteria, the disease-causing type of bacteria. that is when we start seeing like things like stress come in, weight gain come in, poor immunity come in. So what we want to thrive at all times is to make sure we've got good bacteria in right quantities, meaning that always more good bacteria. Those are called the probiotics. Most people think that they only need to worry about probiotics when they are taking antibiotics, but that's not entirely the truth. Because yes, the antibiotics, they do erode both the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, but that's not the only time we should be worried. When you are trying to figure out, you know, how am I gonna, my skin has problems, I've got so much acne, how am I gonna deal with that? You need to tap into, how is my gut? You know, do I have a right balance of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria? So that's why those guys are important. So we get the probiotics from the supplements or from food. So there are variety of foods that are rich in probiotics, like your plain yogurt, your fermented vegetables like sauerkraut. Other people call it sauerkraut. Yeah, but it's just fermented cabbage in my understanding. And kimchi, those are types of fermented vegetables. We are familiar with acha. That's one of the good fermented vegetables. Yes. Even fermented fruits, mostly. It's fermented fruits, mango. But then we are told, no, you can't eat acha. Acha is unhealthy, but actually, and then you're told you need to eat kimchi. But then when you learn about kimchi, oh, Chinese just fermented a couple of fruits. So why can't I also ferment a couple of fruits and pickle them and eat them? So those are the type of conversations that I think are important, because I'll talk about them as we go along. All right. But also you can get probiotics from amas, which is a fermented milk, a very good source of probiotic. And I remember growing up, we used to be told that amasi, they cause worms. But I think somehow it was true, because worms are part of the microflora. They're supposed to be there in right quantities. So I think we missed a little bit of, you know, that. Yeah, so, but now the gut health, you need to feed the good bacteria. Otherwise, they're now flooding your gut, but they're like walking around like tired and not really fed well. So that is why it's important to eat whole grains, food that will feed the probiotic, the good bacteria. So this is brave, but science says your gut is your second brain. So over time, we've learned that you can focus on your brain, as in the brain as we know it, but if your gut health is not on par, you're not really going to get the optimal results. So you need to focus on those two brains. And also, why is it important that we're saying the gut is the second brain, is that when you look into immune system, I think we are in the middle of the pandemic. It would be a sin I walk out of here without talking about immunity. You guys would be like, she was useless. She didn't tell us about our immune system. So immune system is another third pillar of health. I've spoken about mental health. I've spoken about gut health. Immune system, though, is nothing like how most people think of the immunity. We think that it's like some timid organ or like a system that is just like, you know, there, and whenever it feels like it, then it just wakes up, and sometimes it doesn't even wake up. Or an epidemic or a pandemic comes, be it cholera or coronavirus or whatever virus, then it goes, oh my goodness, it's got to work, and it wakes up. We are forgetting that an immune system is a much more sophisticated and well-organized system. We call it one of the most organized systems in the body. It's so coordinated to above human power. Because, for example, did you know that your bone marrow is part of the immune system? So say, for example, you've got bone marrow cancer, or you've got like low production of bone marrow or something like that. Automatically, that's going to affect your immune system. And also your skin, the actual skin, as you said, it's part of the immune system to protect you from external threats that comes into your body. That's the first line of defense. And then your gut is also part of the immune system to protect you from the first contact from anything that you are ingesting. And this happens in every millisecond of the day. As I'm talking right now, my immune system is like, here, and it's fighting things that are coming my way. Of course, some other viruses and some things, they demand your immune system, especially if it's not familiar with them. Hence, we are now saying it's a pandemic, because something like coronavirus is something new. So our immune system is saying, okay, this is new. But how my immune system will recognize coronavirus is completely different to anybody else, because each and every one of us, depending on where we grew up, what we eat, how we sleep, how we were exposed to certain things, even how you were born, was it a C-section or a natural birth, were you breastfed or were you formula fed, comes into play now.
You're born.
Because now it's going to be a determinant in terms of how will coronavirus affects you. Say, for example, you start popping pills now and be like, oh, corona is here, I'm going to start taking vitamin C. Did you know that it's actually going to take 12 weeks for that vitamin C to now control the whole immune system and change the setting into how it works? Think of it if it's a robot. Our body is not really like robots, but I want you to see the sophistication of it, that you find the wires so tangled up and you just think, oh, I'm just going to take vitamin C today, and then tomorrow I won't get coronavirus because now I've just tweaked this wire. It doesn't work like that. You tweak one wire, it sends signals, and each signal has to go ahead and tweak another wire and tweak another wire. For most people, the trueness of it is that if we look into that complication of immune system, for most people, the pandemic will come and actually go before all the wires are tweaked to actually now tweak the whole immune system. So when we think of it in that way, then we maybe somehow will stop. I know we want to be in control, but we will just do what we can and then maybe not panic in a sense of, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then that. If I can get zinc in, yeah, somebody said, you get it. It is not really like that. And the 70% of the immune cells, they sit in the gut, and it's the biggest tissue for immune, it's biggest part of the immune system, because we've got organs like the bone marrow and all those lymph nodes and all those lymphatic vessels and stuff like that. And then we've got cells. So there are B cells, there are T cells, there are B alpha cells and T beta cells, and it's a whole complicated structure. So when we look into those things, for example, somebody without tonsils, they've had their tonsils removed, might feel, oh, now that I don't have tonsils, it means everything is just going to affect me, immunity, my immunity is off. But that's not how it would work. Your body will recognize, okay, she doesn't have tonsils now. Okay, bone marrow or appendix, come to the party. You need to take double the load, so that, you know, that type of a conversation. And there are nutrients that specifically, in our understanding, because remember, science evolves. Almost every day, something new is happening somewhere in the world, and we have to keep up with that. So the current science is saying there are nutrients that out of studies have been shown to really support the function of the immune system. Vitamin B12, vitamin B6, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, selenium, zinc, and iron. Those are the 8 nutrients that have been studied well in the link of the immune system. But when you overdo something out of those nutrients, you almost tweak it off balance. I can give you an example, zinc. So I saw a rotation on social media where a celebrity was saying, this is what my doctor said to me. I must take 200 milligrams of zinc a day, right? So a human, an adult, needs about 11 milligrams of zinc a day. And you are told for 5 days, you need to take 200 milligrams of zinc a day. That means that by the end of those 5 days, you've taken 1,000 milligrams of zinc, but you only need 11 milligrams a day. So automatically, we call that a therapeutic overdose of a certain nutrient. That is going to shift your immune system. By the end of those 5 days, you will extremely have now poor immunity. Remember that I said you can't just take vitamin C today and expect results today. You might get those results in 12 weeks. As soon as you overdose on a nutrient like zinc, you get that effect quite sooner because it's in high doses. So those are the things that we need to really be cognizant of. Immune system, I am watching my time. Immune system is sophisticated beyond human power. We can only support it, but not to boost it. A lot of marketing platforms, they use the word boost. And as soon as you see a word boost, you're like, yeah, I need that, anything that is boosting. But the trueness of things is that we only talk boosting or I want to use the word when we are making the immune system underactive. Say, for example, you've had an organ donation, like a liver, in hospital as a clinical dietitian, my job is to make sure that this person, the liver takes, that the liver that you are a recipient for, it accepts, yes. So then we have to give you medication to suppress your immune system. And it's high doses of medication to drive. Remember I said those wires are connected? We want to drive the whole panel and put it down. When we do that, then your immune system is not going to recognize this threat, because it always, anything that comes into your body, it sees it as a threat. Then you can accept the organ. Once the organ is accepted, then we rev up the immune system so that it goes back to normal. That is done in clinical practice. Just as me walking into a pharmacy, I can't do that process of boosting. Which brings me to a point here of health supplements. And I must say that most of these things that I'm talking about, I had to wait, and we got a lot of it from you guys out of your WhatsApp questions that you sent. So Lindsay helped me a lot because I wanted to talk about things that are relevant. My biggest say is that when the diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When the diet is right, medicine is of no need. And think about that for a moment. And I'm talking medicine in a sense of health supplements as well. That you go to any pharmacy right now, the shelf is growing, it's growing, it's growing. Every time you go there, they are completely new things. So I can let you in into a little bit of a secret here, because Lindsay paid me well. So I consult for a direct selling company that makes health supplements. My job is to make sure that we're bringing new products and that are proper, that are aligned to the regulations and stuff like that. If you go to the shelf at any pharmacy and you read each and every one of those supplements, at the back of it, it says in fine print, this product has not been registered with the SAPRA, That is written in almost all the products that you'll find in these pharmacies. SAPRA is a body that regulates supplements. It used to be MCC. And then 2 years ago, Ramaphosa decided to dissolve MCC because it wasn't doing, it seems like they were not working as they were supposed to. So then they were dissolved, a new council was put in place, which is SAPRA. And now SAPRA is trying to catch up with thousands and thousands and thousands of health supplements in the shelves to try and control them. The pharmacies, well, they don't really care to check if what's actually in the capsule matches what's in the box labeling. All they care about, that's why you find, and I get so upset when I go to a pharmacy. I find, when you're putting the shelving, I'm sure you'll know this as entrepreneurs, that whoever pays more is at eye level, and whoever pays less is at the foot level. Like that is how they determine. Whoever pays more has a bigger whatever writing and this. So when you look into those things, automatically as a consumer, you're thinking, this must be brilliant. It costs more for things. But when I actually look into it as an expert in the field, I realized, like, there's one product that I picked up about a week ago. It was flying off the shelves. As I was standing there in the aisle, everybody was coming. Oh yeah, oh, thank God I found it. And I'm asking this guy, has people been buying this product? Say, it flies. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I looked into the zinc, because it's the name of the product is written zinc something. I looked into zinc. They've got 2.5 milligrams of zinc. And I'm like, but you can find that in a cup of baked beans, or kidney beans, or chickpeas, or black peas, or whatever. And that is in a capsule form, which automatically means absorption is not guaranteed. Just unlike food. Food, we know that you absorb 80 to 90% of what you're taking. But supplements, you might absorb 3%.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to get carried away with supplements. Let's talk about African culture.
Thank you for whistle blowing.
Yeah. So that is one of my favorites. I think the mandates, or why I decided to be a dietitian, is based on my experience. When at some point in my life, I think I was 11 or 10, my dad got very ill, and he was referred to a dietitian by a specialist from Durban. We stayed in the village, Wanongom. So when he got that referral, the specialist or the cardiologist said, you need to see a dietitian as in a matter of urgency. And then he referred him to a dietitian in Bangeni, which I had to take him there because I was the one caring for him at the time. We got there, it's a beautiful office, and we meet this, you know, beautiful put together lady, and she's white. And one of the things that she told us to find was quinoa, broccoli, cauliflower.
Can you relate? Yeah,
So
many years ago.
So, without giving out my age, that was about 20 years ago. Yeah, it was a while ago. Quinoa at that time. So quinoa, broccoli, cauliflower, and something else that I'm forgetting. The 4 things. Actually, it was flaxseed. She said flaxseed. There you go. So then my dad was told, this person is important. So whatever that she says, you must follow. I literally had to go around. I looked in Pangeni, I looked in Richards Bay. I was sent to Durban. I was 11 years old. I remember I was sent to Durban to look for quinoa. Eventually, I found quinoa, and okay, the rest is history. But my point was, so my dad later passed. My point was, for the longest of time, I wondered, is there a way that another food item that could have replaced quinoa? Because I really struggled with that quinoa. And so years later, when I was doing grade 10, I then listened to the radio, and I had this lady, she was a nutritionist, but she was black. I was like, bingo, that's the lady I want to be. And then later I found that, okay, there's a difference. And I said, oh, I want to be a dietitian. I want to be the one who can treat problems using nutrition. So that's how I got into nutrition. I always told myself, one of the things is to revisit the African food culture, because this is then what happens. This then happens. When you think about African food culture, this is who's mine. Yeah. And I think us as Black Africans in particular, we also undermine our own food, because we think that what we're eating is not sufficient. Part of it is our fault, maybe part of it is not our fault because of the society that we live in. And then we go from eating like, you know, just pap and a lot of meat, or a lot of pap and a little meat, or a lot of meats like the pap, the plate there on the left. And then they say to us, carbs are bad, pap is empty, don't eat it. And then we go, okay, nothing, I'm gonna just eat only meat. But when you look into it and then we shift into saying we're gonna eat salads. And I've got brothers, I'm the only girl, and I know that every time my brothers think, I'm gonna go on a diet, and the next thing they do, I see somebody sitting there with a big bowl of lettuce and they're saying, but that's not it. We are forgetting a couple of things. We've got legumes, we've got beans, we've got all these beautiful nutritious foods that we have. We've got vegetables, imroho, your spinach, your cabbage. And when we eat those foods, we only eat them. You know, when I go home, Etabanchu in Free State, yeah, I like it to eat ding and fried cabbage. Why don't you do that, Jules? Why can't you eat like that in your own household? And just by the way, maize meal in South Africa is fortified with vitamins and minerals. It's not empty. Whenever you see that sign written fortified for better health, that means that commercial maize meal has added vitamins in there. Yes, maize meal is higher energy, meaning that you need obviously to control your portion, but people will hear, like there was a time in my church where a pastor was preaching, a packed church, and he was saying, we're saying bye to poverty. And then people are saying, bye to poverty. And then he said, buy maize meal. We don't eat maize meal. Maize meal is poor. And I was like, no, dude, that's not true. Anyway, so.
That's a Scottish.
Pilchards, amasi, sorghum, brilliant food. Sorghum has more fiber per 100 grams compared to oats. And when you see oats in the shop, it has a 3D box, and it's beautiful, and it has all those colors. It's 30 grams per kg. When you see amabele, the sorghum meal, it's in like this plastic bag where it's been there for years. And it costs 15 rand per kilogram, and nobody cares about it, and it's a bottom shelf somewhere, you have to look for it. Those But that is actually food that is nourishing, food that gives us energy. And we're trying here to build resilience and we're trying to build strength. Yeah, so those are the things. Now, quickly, plant-based diet. Somebody asked me this question, and I thought it's very important because there's a lot of information around vegetarian. So the trueness of things, firstly, vegan is not a diet, it's a lifestyle. So when you are vegan, it's not just about what you eat, it's about this shoe, where did it come from, the shampoo you use, the lotion, because veganism is more about ethical rights for animals, but also religious or spiritual, connections to certain things. So I'm not a vegan, but I appreciate the culture or the lifestyle of veganism because it's something that I think we need. Commitment that is quite amazing. Vegans are very committed. And that is something that even our planet needs because we start, fixing a lot of problems. Vegetarian is an umbrella term. Under vegetarian, there is vegan, now as in what vegans eat. And then there is the vegetarians that eat eggs. And then there are vegetarians who don't eat eggs but drink milk. And there are vegetarians who neither drink milk nor they eat eggs. So there are vegetarians who eat only fish, but they don't eat other meat. We call them pescatarians. And there are flexible vegetarians. Today I'm going to be vegetarian. Tomorrow I'm not going to be vegetarian. You don't even try it. Don't lie. You eat vegetarian. And then plant-based is not a diet. Plant-based is a culture where we are eating more plant products. Be it we are now adding more beans into our food, we are adding more salads or vegetables in our plates, or whatever the case is. So that is plant-based. So I want us to really get it that it's quite different. Now, when people think, I'm going to be vegetarian, the next thing they think, I need to eat organic, I need to eat almond milk. Yeah, I need a couple of gallons of that. And they think that I need to eat natural, anything that is natural or non-GMO or non-this and gluten-free and wheat-free. The list goes on and on. But the trueness of things, that's not true. Because once you eat like that, being a vegetarian becomes super expensive, unnecessary. So it's about eating a balanced diet. And please mute.
Don't do me so, please mute.
Thank you. All right. And then, thank you. Healthy eating is about eating foods that you enjoy, that nourish the body, and that are easily accessible to you, and the foods that you can afford. So basically, it's about muting and blocking the sounds, because when you go on social media today, like I saw the other day, this guy who's been pushing broccoli for a longest of time, he comes and says, broccoli sprouts now? Like, when broccoli is still growing, now he's saying people must eat that, and maybe broccoli is not so much that. But at the end of the day, it's not about broccoli. It's not about cauliflower. It's about individually, as we are, eating what we can afford. If it's broccoli, good. But if it's not, then spinach could be the thing for you. Quick one is body image and BMI. What is a perfect body size? I'm a health professional, registered with the HPCSA, but I'll tell you this. For the longest of time, BMI has worked, whereby you can tell a person, you've got high BMI, go lose weight. But in 2020, that is not sufficient. And this is why. This person is a model, and she's got a perfect, beautiful body. And you may think she's got a perfect BMI, I need to be like that. Or this person, you might think he's got a perfect body and he got a perfect BMI. But the trueness of things is that BMI cannot be used on its own. We need to look into the blood sugar levels. We need to look at your cholesterol levels. We need to look at your blood pressure, your hormones, your nutrients, how you sleep, your clinical symptoms. Like I had a client the other day, he's a CEO of a big company. He comes to me and he's like, you know what, I want to gain muscle and stuff like that. So it goes on for like 20 minutes and I'm thinking, okay. And then as I'm doing my assessments now and I say, okay, can you please take off your shoes? I want to see your feet because I need to clinically examine them. And I realized he's got what we call pellagra. Pellagra is one of the B vitamins deficiency. It's something that is very easy to fix, but he's had it for the longest of time. And he's not thinking that is something that a dietitian can help him deal with. So sometimes what we think is healthy is not it. There are other things that we need to look into them. So skinny or presence of a six-pack does not translate to healthy. Obesity is one of the major risk factors of diseases of lifestyle like your diabetes and high blood pressure, but being curvy or big with inverted commas does not translate to unhealthy. So we need to really be careful of that. For example, I'm for body positive in the sense of you can be high BMI, but how you feel about yourself for me comes first. How are you feeling? Is it easy for you to get through the day, or is it not easy? And I find that there are those, big curvy girls, and I don't care. Like I'm feeling good. I'm able to wake up. I'm bouncing with energy. And I say, okay, if your blood pressure and your cholesterol and stuff are fine, I'm happy with that. But then the results come back and everything is through the roof. I'm like, okay, we need to cap it some way, and we need to change how we're eating so that we can control it. All right, we've got a couple of people. The first person eats like this. Vegetables, fruits, water, like dry breast, chicken breasts, and all those things. And then the second person is like, I don't give it. I don't care. Whatever goes. Life is too short. YOLO. I need to live my life. Yes. I'm not for either of these people. I don't think because I'm a dietitian, I'm for person one. I'm not, because that increases the feelings of deprivation. And that is a person who eats like that or do intermittent fasting similar to that. They will starve themselves the whole day. At 6 p.m. they unzip the gene and go, whoo, and they gobble biscuits and they gobble that and they gobble that. It was a long day. So what we need to try and squeeze in. So these are the type of messages also I share in my social media platforms, and is that everything can fit in one diet. You can see there is vegetables, there is a bag of chips whenever life happens, there are fruits, there is a cupcake and everything. Hence I say progress over perfection is key in trying to live well. And a cupcake and broccoli can coexist in the same diet. By the time I live here, you all will think I hate broccoli. I actually love broccoli. I just like using it as an example because I think it's a vegetable that I really struggled to. I had post-traumatic feelings towards it because I really struggled to find it when I needed it 20 years ago. So I sometimes can relate to people who think, I don't understand how to even cook this vegetable. All right. So the moral of the story is that healthy eating helps us develop physical resilience. Everyone's nutrition needs and health goals are different. And it's very important to block the noise and stick to what works for you. And in my case as a dietitian, I'll tell you that Google or internet, they don't know your pocket. You can go now and go to the search engine and be like, how to eat to lose weight. And then meal plans and what's not will come through. But none of those people who developed that had you in mind financially. That's a fact. It doesn't matter where they are. They didn't know that you are a social entrepreneur, you've got a startup, you are financially stretched or whatever the case is. And they didn't know that, like somebody was saying, Yana, he's a Xhosa guy, and they don't know all of those concepts about your life. So it's very important to not take nutrition advice from your neighbor, your friend, your family, just from the internet. As much as if you've got a toothache, you don't say, okay, how to remove a wisdom tooth? And then internet says, okay, this is how. Then you take the pliers and remove. I've never seen somebody who does that. Normally teeth fall off on their own. Yeah, so that is that. Are there any questions?
Yo.
Wow.
No, that's brilliant.
Now we can talk about whatever questions or anything. Yes, sir. Sorry, Sisanda.
No, go ahead. No, just go ahead. I'm still stunned. I'm like, what? Vitamins are not that, but you've completely, you've blown my mind. So it's fine. Take the questions.
Okay.
Just hang on a sec. I think Batabile and Nozipo are from the same village. Is that correct, ladies?
Are they from Wanangoma?
Yes, they
Yes.
are.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
In town somewhere, because we've got one street.
Yes, this way.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about bunting. My brother is on this bunting diet, and so how is that? Is that a good thing to go into or consider?
So banting is a high-fat, low-carb kind of diet. It's similar to ketogenic diets, and predominantly they're about the fact that your body can use ketones. So when there's lack of carbohydrates, your body uses fat for energy, and fat is converted into ketones, which is food for the brain and stuff like that. And that somehow can, encourage weight loss and stuff like that. So as a diet, banting is something that comes and goes, and in a sense of, yes, it's been around now for a couple of years, but as a person eating that much fat and not eating the carbohydrates, it is not really sustainable in the long term. And even the scientific studies have shown that, great, people lose weight, but it doesn't teach them the behavior modifications of how we need to eat, as much as also it's something that it cannot be sustainable for the whole family, because you can't put your 4-year-old child to banting. We know the implications of that for children, but also for adults, it gets into a point where they start missing carbohydrates, and food has a social value, and that we cannot deny. You go to a family wedding after obviously the pandemic, you are now cautious and you're like, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. So you're automatically isolated in a way, which food brings people together, but now you're like, I don't do this. And then in our culture, it becomes even more difficult. But then health-wise, we look into things like triglycerides and cholesterol, but people who are on banting, those who are susceptible to high cholesterol, like familial high cholesterol, in a sense that genetically you've got that, they will have problems with high cholesterol, eventually leading to heart disease. So I know it's a long answer, but I cannot tell if it's suitable for your brother specifically, but I can tell you now that as a diet like that, it has a lot of red flags than the good. But we know that balance and trying to fit everything and not restricting a whole food group seems to be something that works better than eliminating a food group like that. Yeah.
Mbali, we have a question from Rensha in Cape Town.
Hi.
Hello. So my family has a history of diabetes. My grandmother had, my aunt had, and also cancer. So I am trying to be very mindful about what our family eats, and especially the kids. But what can we do practically from a financial point where food stuff is concerned? I mean, what can I introduce the kids to that will kind of lower that, how do I say, the effects of diabetes on the family, but without having to buy all the expensive things? Because if you go to Clicks and all those health stores, all those healthy options are very expensive. So a cheaper version, but also effective version for trying to live a healthy lifestyle and not, because it is hard. I've introduced the brown rice, I've introduced the whole wheat pastas, but they don't like it. But what can I sneak in there, but still in a cost-effective way without them knowing? Yeah.
All right, that's a fantastic one. Firstly, I think children are very smart. You don't have to sneak anything. You literally have to, engage them in the sense of, this is what we should be eating more of, and then they really, really understand. I've got a couple of kids myself, and if I'm trying to just like blindly sneak things through, they don't really grasp the concept. They need to really fully understand, and you educate, you tell them. In a sense of trying healthy options that are affordable, the misconception is that, for example, you need to go and eat as a diabetic, or as somebody who's concerned about being a diabetic in future, you need to eat diabetic-friendly foods or sugar-free labeled foods. That makes healthy eating expensive, and that's not how it should be. So just eating whatever vegetables that are accessible and affordable to you is sufficient. Even in a case of brown rice, yes, I'm for whole grains, but what if you don't actually buy brown rice, you use white rice and add frozen vegetables to it to increase the fiber in that white rice. Also, we often don't eat white rice or white pap on its own. There is a pairing. There are vegetables that we add on the side, and there is protein that we add on the side, which in totality, when you look into that plate, the plate is nutrient dense, as opposed to looking into each food individually. Also, when you've got a family history of diabetes, it's very important not to look into just, how we eat. We need to eat healthy, but also just the overall lifestyle. It could be just starting to engage in more outdoor activities, being active more and, looking into those things, even if it's what we drink. For children, I always find it easier to start with what they drink and introducing them to healthier drink options as opposed to high sugary drinks. Those are the things that you can do that are very cheap. They are not based on how much can you afford or how little can you afford. It's more holistically looking at it in a much more bigger view.
Mbali, there's a question on the chat from Dieudonné. He asks, what are your thoughts on alkaline diet?
The alkaline diet is a diet that aims to dilute, I'm just going to put it in layman's term. It's meant to dilute your acidity, because apparently a human being is acidic. Apparently, because when you look into that, so the gut from mouth down is a separate entity to other organs. I don't know if you understand. There is blood in between. So when you are eating something that is going through your gut, it doesn't automatically be dumped into the blood. The gut has to be acidic. Otherwise, bacteria will just come. Bad bacteria will just come and live, and which is not good. The fact that the gut has to be acidic, it means no matter how much alkaline the food that you are eating or drinking is, when it gets to the gut, it's going to be converted into the acidic nature of your gut. By the time whatever that goes from your gut to the blood, the gut controls it to be in the same pH as your blood. I hope I'm making sense. So the trueness of the thing, an alkaline diet is just a fat diet, just like a blood type diet. We can't control it like that, because even if you're eating something that has got a pH of 20, which doesn't really happen, when it gets to the gut, it will be converted to the pH below 6. That is guaranteed. So we need to be very cognizant of those things that are marketed like that. Anything alkaline, like I know these days, a lot of water, they will say it's pH of this and pH of that. So long as it's clean, safe water that is acceptable for human consumption without any bacteria, go for it. It mustn't be that pH or whatever is like that. Yeah, so that is that.
The session is just about unlearning. Before I go to the next question from Basabile, I just want to ask, I know that there were some guys that sent through questions prior to the session, but as I was watching Mbali's presentation, I think some of those questions were answered. I just want to find out from you guys if you feel that your questions were answered in the presentation. If not, can you please just let us know either on the WhatsApp chat or on the chat on Zoom, and then we'll get to those questions. But Matabile asks, is it true that fasting actually strengthens the immune system?
Okay, so fasting, it sounds like complicated when you're saying it's fasting. You're just not eating. That's what fasting means. You're just not eating. Then what? Because just not you're not eating.
Matabile, do you want to maybe further explain what you meant?
No, it's not because I don't get it, but I'm trying to answer the question that once we say fasting, it sounds like it's some form of a scientific way of manipulating certain things. But what fasting means is that you're just not eating.
No food.
So when you're not eating, there's a host of changes that happen in your body scientifically in terms of human physiology or human biology, that at the end of the day, your body wants you to survive. that's it. It wants you to survive. It wants you to live. It wants you to live. And that's all what it's thinking about. So when Mbali is not eating for a couple of hours, your body is thinking, okay, guys, this has been happening for a couple of days now that she doesn't eat. And she's now been fatigued, or now she's what, and now we're scared her immunity is going to be affected. Then your body moves things around. But whatever that your body is doing is in response to what you're doing. So if you can fast for 21 days and not eat, maybe we can say that something will happen to your immunity. But if you can fast today, tomorrow you're like, I'm done with this thing of fasting, it's not working out for me. Then you eat, then the following day, like, I'm fasting today. It's just you stopping to eat, and then when you feel like it, you eat again. But if it's like done in such a way that you're saying for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks, I'm not eating, then we can definitely say scientifically, something will happen permanently that will affect your immune system.
Sure. Okay. Portia, you have a question as well?
Yes. Hi, Mbali. Thank you so much, Sasanda. I just have a question with regards. I have hypothyroidism, right, which resulted in me having a lump in my throat. And that's genetic because my mom had the same thing. So I've been to herbal dietitians and doctors and trying the Nutura products, but nothing is helping because I'm at this point where I can't even swallow bread. And when it comes to my liquids, I even forget to swallow them. And it'll be like 5-10 minutes later, my partner will be like, you still got stuff in your mouth. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then I swallow it. So now that you blew the whistle on what you should read behind the products, I'm starting to understand why all of these things are not working. And it's actually putting a damper on the fact that I can skip, with my anxiety levels, I can skip breakfast, I can skip lunch and only eat in the evening. But I know my body's drained and I'm hungry, but I won't go and eat that food because now it's either my thyroid is hurting or I just don't feel the need to swallow because of, I will forget. Is there anything that I can do about this?
So, just to get everyone to understand what Portia has, it's called goiter. It's so normally it's caused by the iron level, the iodine levels being too high. It's genetically related, but also we can manipulate it with the diet. Firstly, I think, Portia, what you did there was to go to a herbal dietitian. I've never heard of a herbal dietitian. I don't know exactly what's the herbal dietitian. And I don't remember seeing a herbal dietitian.
No, really. The thing is, why she calls herself a herbal dietitian is because she gives you all this herbal medication that she just, conks up and does. And but we were referred to, and apparently she saved her life. So I was like, you know what? I tried doctor, so let me just try it and see what happens. But it didn't work.
So with that, anything because remember, it's the high quantities of iodine. Most herbs and most supplements are based somehow on some iodine or sulfur, and those nutrients can actually make your problem be worse if somebody who's helping you is not understanding that you need to eliminate iodine. Even salt in South Africa is enriched with iodine. So for a person with goiter, that's a big start because anything done with salt raises a problem. It makes your problem even worse. My biggest thing is that perhaps you need to see, I can send Lindsay somebody who can, I know is a dietitian that works a lot with goiter or thyroid particularly, and that person can help you. She's a dietitian, and I think that's going to help because you need to sit down and she'll be able to identify the triggers and be able to eliminate those. But we don't give supplements as dietitians. We use nutrition. We use food first as therapy. That's what we are trained to do.
Thank you so much, Mbali. I would really appreciate it.
I'll note that.
Wow. Thank you, Mbali. Luvo?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Mbali, for such an amazing session. So for me, I think this session made me to do a quite of reflection. So within around administering of supplements. So the one thing I realized was that because there's a lot of content that is covered online, in which people tend to go online and search for supplements that can help them to pave through their diets or to supplement their diet. So the question is, for someone who's not part of this session and for someone who's not listening on this session, how would you advise them to get hold of dietitians? Because I feel like there are so many people who'd really get some help, and they've spent so much money trying out things that are not working. For an example, mention something about the magnesium dosage, of which those things are really important for people who don't understand science to that level, and of which they keep spending money into getting supplements, of which they envisage that those supplements are going to bring a change. And you realize that people are administering supplements, and then 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the line, they're no longer using such supplements. But the question is, for someone who needs such help, and how will they get hold of a dietitian? Because right now, for me, I was really fortunate that the only dietitian I have is Lindsay, who's been and exactly. And for someone who doesn't have a Lindsay, for someone who's out there, how can they get hold of dietitians? Because I know quite a number of people who've never heard of dietitians and who can't even know how to get hold of dietitians. And I feel like there is a dire need for people to get hold of dietitians instead of trying things that are either going to put them at a health risk.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that question/comment as well. Firstly, when it comes to nutrition, everybody who eats and drinks has a nutrition interest, a keen interest in nutrition. And as soon as because I can eat, and they think, okay, I can then give advice. So I can just tell everybody about nutrition, which is quite, which is a serious problem. I mean, we are sitting in a country where there is as food insecurity, there are economic issues, but at the same time, there are health issues that we need to deal with. And when the information is circulated that forces people into thinking they need to go out to look for foods that they can't afford and leave foods that have got at home to that are still as nutritious, that for me is just, it hurts me when I hear those messages. Luckily, we are starting to be more, I think I've started somehow a movement where I'm encouraging young dietitians, especially dietitians of color, to share information on social media and be bold and be open about that. Because if we ourselves, as the experts that are recognized by the healthcare professionals of South Africa, if we can't do that because we are scared, then other people will come in and take that space. We've seen influencers do that. We've seen chefs do that. We've seen personal trainers do that. So everybody just feel like, because I've got a reach, then I can just talk about nutrition. So the first place to start, search on social media for dietitian. And I can't stress that enough, that it needs to be somebody who is a dietitian, or if it's a nutritionist, you need to check if they are registered with HPCSA, because nutritionist as a profession is not really regulated in South Africa and around the world. So you need to really check that. Or you can actually go to the HPCSA website and then see on the dietitian. So you can just check and see dietitians close by you, and you can put my name or anybody's name and double check if they are on the registrations board. Why is that important? It's because we are held accountable for what we say, what we do, all the advices we give by the council. So anybody else can say whatever they want to say about nutrition. No one is holding them accountable. But also social media is a good place. So you can search there, dietitians in South Africa, and a couple of hashtags. You might start to see that, oh, they're here and we are here. I recently launched a program under my NPO because of that problem.
Can you please mute, my love? Thank you, Zintle.
So the NPO is to offer dietitian pro bono services. So I'm mobilizing dietitians who've got time to volunteer into the program, and we actually start reaching out to many people who cannot afford dietitians in the private sector, because we are running our own business and going on with our lives, but people need us and they can't access us. So those are the types of things that in the next 10 years, we'll be talking a different language. Dietitians will be much more accessible. They are also in the government hospitals, but at this moment during the pandemic, it's very, very difficult to get them because their hands are quite full. Hopefully, after the pandemic, they will start attending to non-COVID related cases as well.
Wow. Okay, Mbali, there are so many questions, but I'm only going to take Tepos Viwe Nozipho, and Bata. And after that, guys, I'm closing it, ne? Or we'll be here all day because
I'll
like
try to brief myself. I'll try to brief as well.
no, but like it's so informative. Like we're all learning so much, and I think that's why everybody has questions. So Tapo, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Hello, Mbali. Yes, yes. I wanted to know, can you treat like a chronic disease, like for instance, maybe asthma, with good diet or something like that? Number two, I have another question. I don't know how to, maybe that will help me out. We grow up knowing that you have to, I don't know whether it's detox or what, castor oil, stain tea, these things, And yeah, when we grew up like that, and I never really understood why I never really understood. I thought for me it was just child abuse at one point. When I was,
The first question is, sure, I think I want to start with the last question. The reason why, so we are taught that we've got this, call it nyongo, it's like this thing that needs to go. It's actually bile acid. Everyone has bile acid, and you need bile acid to digest the fats. It's stored in a gallbladder. So that acid goes back and forth. It goes back and forth into the stomach because depending on what you're eating, your body releases it to the whole story. When we are forcing either to remove the bile acid through, enema or through vomiting, of course, it's opuma, mara. Sometimes it goes with all the electrolytes because it's attached to enzymes and electrolytes. And that can dehydrate a person in a sense of they're now weak. And I've had cases, especially when I worked in a government hospital, where a child will come, particularly children, they will come and the mother, when we're starting to investigate what was the thing that happened, no, I was removing it, and then, and a child becomes severely dehydrated. In South Africa, majority of the children under 5 mortality is due to purging or enema or those type of practices. And normally we then say, no, but I'm Zulu. I've got herbs that I need to use. And those herbs are very important. And I truly, truly, truly honor African herbs and that type of spiritual type of usage. The problem begins, we misuse the herbs. And we now start linking herbal use to inyongo and all those things. And the herbalists themselves will tell you, don't touch that herb. That will kill you. And then you go ahead and overuse the herb and end up in hospital. And now it's like, yo, ngalo, it's witchcraft. But at the end of the day, it started with what we do. So I want to really highlight that. And when you look into the current herb that is popular now, umhlonyane. Umhlonyane is a herb that has always been around for the longest of time. It's a fantastic herbal medicine. But guess what we're doing? We're drinking half a cup or a cup of umhlonyane every day. And we've been doing this since the pandemic started. You know what it's going to do to your liver or your kidneys? By the end of the pandemic, the kidneys will be dry. You know how an overdone steak is? That's what your liver is going to look like. But the herbalists are telling us that stop misusing a herb. You need to use it according to the herbalist guide. Literally, quarter of a cup in 2 weeks is enough because it's a herb, it's very strong. So those are the conversations that we need to start having amongst ourselves. The other thing that you asked, sorry, I forgot. What is that?
Can you treat a chronic disease, like for instance,
chronic diseases. Okay. So there are 2 ways of dealing with chronic diseases with nutrition. Hence, we call it therapeutic nutrition. You can either manage it or treat it. So something like asthma, you can greatly manage it, but you cannot treat it because it's an autoimmune type of a disease, meaning that your body will always want to find ways to bring an asthma attack and stuff like that. But you can then use nutrition to manage it. Something like diabetes is another immune, especially type 2 diabetes, another an autoimmune disease. Lupus is an autoimmune disease. Those diseases you cannot treat with nutrition, but you can manage in terms of flare-ups and making sure that you don't have attacks. But high blood pressure is one of the diseases I like because I can treat with nutrition easily. Yeah. And you can not even manage it, completely treat it, and you don't have to be hypertensive with nutrition. Yeah? Okay, he's saying low blood. Can I just explain, guys? There's nothing called low blood. It's either low blood what? Low blood pressure, low blood iron, low blood what? Eh?
Those are anemic.
Oh, that's low blood iron. When you're anemic, it's low blood iron levels, and definitely can treat it with food, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Joburg, stop stealing time, Lapo. I see you.
And they are like.
I see you. We've got a question from Sviwa in Cape Town, and then we'll take Nozipo's question.
And then we end.
I just want to also say, just to the Joburg guys, because there are more hands popping up. Mbali, if you just give her a break to have her lunch, she is going to be around for a little bit longer. So the Joburgers, you can ask some questions after Mbali's caught her breath and had something to eat. Yeah, sorry, Mbali, but yeah, there's a lot of hands, so there will be time for a little bit more discussion at a later stage. And what we don't reach through today, we will get through another time.
Okay, so can we just quickly go to Sviwa's question then?
Chicken salad. I checked it out, Moroccan chicken salad.
Thank you, Joburg. Sva, you had a question in Cape Town?
I have a question regarding the COVID. Since the pandemic started, the recommendations to boost your immune system, and a whole list here that I've been using and my circles around me have been using in terms of eating and drinking. Ginger, lemon, garlic, warm water, eucalyptus oil, cayenne pepper, honey, and I've been using this and also been using what is called food, steaming yourself. Even my Swedish girlfriend has been doing that. I just want to know, like I know with the supplements of those supplements, but these ones, everyone when they speak, I even spoke to people who actually were the survivors of COVID. I asked them, like, oh, what did you do to survive it, And the list I've just shared with all of you guys. This is what people talk about, and I feel like I'm smelling garlic all over. So is this really like what you should eat? How we are doing it? Is there a certain way? Like, is it a myth? Like can you just help in that terms? Because that's what.
I think to quickly answer your question, Bata. Firstly, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and all we want to do is to be in control. And food is one of those things that we want to quickly be in control with, or whatever that we eat and drink. So garlic, ginger, turmeric, cayenne pepper, and the list goes on and on. Those are anti-inflammatories. Those are foods that we need to anyway be eating them as part of our healthy diet. It doesn't have to be because now we are scared we're going to contract COVID. And what we know for sure is that you can eat all the garlic in the world, you'll still contract COVID-19. I'm saying contract, but you can still be infected with the coronavirus. So it really is a matter of what if you feel like, drinking a glass of warm water in the morning makes you be on top of things during this pandemic. I'm not the one to say don't do it, but I'll tell you that scientifically don't do it. But even supplements, where I get to be really concerned is when we are taking high mega doses of certain vitamins that are actually now detrimental. Like I was speaking of vitamin of zinc, that is actually high dosage, and that can actually now be a problem. But garlic and turmeric in the form of food won't do any harm. It can actually help you in the long term for other diseases, your prostate cancer, something like that. But at the end of the day, you will still be in. I've heard people say don't eat meat because somehow you're going to get coronavirus, or don't drink milk, or whatever the case is. There is no link to COVID-19 and what we eat. We just, if it makes you feel in control to cut all the meat, go ahead, be my guest. I'll continue eating meat.
Thank you for that, Mbali. We shall continue eating meat. One last question from Nozipo, and then after that, guys, we really need to wrap up. So that we can go for lunch and then come back for the next session. So Nozipo?
Hi, Mbali. Nice to hear Umkaya.
Hi, Umkaya.
Hi. I'll ask my quick question. So I'm a vegetarian and I take milk and eggs, and I've been a vegetarian for 2 years. And when I started being a vegetarian, I was still back at home in Kwanongoma, where I could grow my own vegetables. You know, it was really easy. It was affordable as well because I didn't have to spend money, and I could balance what I ate. Like I had no problems. But fast forward to now, you know, there are financial implications to it now because we, like, especially now under the pandemic, and one has to be mindful of how you spend money. And now my question is, like, how can I try and ensure that I'm still eating properly as a vegetarian, and like what I buy is affordable, but I'm still balancing out all the I'm still getting all the nutrients that I need as a vegetarian who also takes eggs and milk. Thank you.
Okay. I think quickly, 3 things. This goes for vegetarians and non-vegetarians. We need to firstly buy seasonal. When we buy seasonal, we are saving a lot of money and we are getting nutrition that we need for that season. We see that in citrus fruit. It's a winter season fruit, and it's packed with vitamins that we need for this period. The second thing is that when we move to the urban areas, we are quick on convenience. I want vegetables, but then we are talking about the pre-cut vegetables from a retail shop. So very important to continue buying in bulk. Go to doesn't have to be a market, but like a place where you can get a combo. You know, I buy combos where I walk out in the shop with plenty of vegetables, literally 200 Rand or something, because I'm buying in bulk. So buying in bulk also is one of the good things. The third thing is that as a vegetarian, you hear that you need protein and stuff like that. So, and you think beans and everything takes longer to cook, and I can't because I don't have time. But then you go and buy something that is very costly that will substitute the protein. You know, those things, very important to plan. I think meal planning and meal preparation and knowing exactly how you want to eat is very important. This goes on to anybody else that as entrepreneurs, we're quick to say, I don't have time, but you know, we still need to eat well. So it helps to plan, this is what I want to eat this week, and start cooking in bulk if it needs to be. And then in that way, we are getting all the nutrition that you need without spending a lot of money. Because we say we don't have money, and then we go drive through and we order on Uber Eats and stuff like that. And that's not really helping us. So yeah.
I feel so attacked, Mbali. Thank you. But thank you so much. It's been such an informative session. I think we've all just taken so much from it. Thank you for telling us about Mfonyana and all these things that we've been told we need to supplement with now because of COVID. I think the session was just so incredible. Siyabonga. Thank you.